Welcome to the Solo CEOs, the podcast for solopreneurs by solopreneurs. Here we celebrate, commiserate, and problem solve all the world's craziness that comes with building a business on your own terms.
I'm Marilyn Johnson, a supplier development and supplier diversity consultant. And
I'm Terra Winston, executive coach and leadership consultant. And we are the Solo CEOs.
Yay!
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, y'all. It is Terra
and Marilyn. Hey.
Wow. Welcome back to the Solo CEOs. We are so glad that you came back. Marilyn?
I am excited, Terra.
They're not ready for this one. They're not ready for this one.
Look, people, we went out and we got the real deal. Of course, you know, that's how we feel about all of our guests. But this lady here, she is going to share with you some things that you need to hear. Terra, how long have we known Miss Crystal?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, it's got to be at least, for me, 12 years.
Right.
Wait a minute. Why does she look the same?
She gives new meaning to Pharrell.
What in the Pharrell hell is going on with you that you look the same?
But before we get into it, Terra, why don't you introduce Crystal formally?
Y'all, please welcome Crystal Love, right? Crystal is an Atlanta girl. She is probably the hardest working people. Like the idea of hustle is something that people throw around. I've never seen anyone hustle so gracefully. Right?
Yeah.
So the same way that Marilyn and I met, you've heard our story where we worked on the same client. That's how we met Crystal. And at the time, like what I have been so impressed with, like, so she's done event management. she doesn't tell you about the business she has now. She has done speaker management. She's done project management. She has done she just manages all the stuff. Like, she's a boss that manages all the stuff. And I personally couldn't imagine doing some of my work without her. She's been on my team in many places. And I honestly, I can tell you, I don't know how she does all the work she does. She's
the quiet storm, Sarah.
I mean, I can't, I don't even
behind the scenes doing it all.
Yeah. Y'all, Crystal Love.
Welcome, Crystal. Thank you for coming today.
That was a great intro.
It's all true. It is all true. Today, you know what, people, we're going to talk about resilience. When we think of resilience, we always try and find people who embody that, truly embody it. And we couldn't think of anyone that fit that better than Crystal, because like Terra said before, she's done a lot and she does it gracefully. She keeps everything moving. You wonder, does any of the balls that she juggled ever fall down? And maybe, but you will never know it. But Crystal, you know what? I want you to say hello to the audience and just give us a real brief overview of the things that you've done over the years as a solopreneur.
Yeah. Hi, welcome. Thank you so much, Terra and Marilyn, for having me. I'm excited to be here with you guys and talk with you guys in a different setting other than a work setting.
Where we're all stressed out and eating all kinds of chips.
Where I'm really fussing, like, where's the thing?
Yes, right. Where I'm calling Terra 5 times a day and dotting my I's and crossing my T's. And I appreciate the introduction, but I'm Crystal Love. And as Terra mentioned, I am an Atlanta girl, born and raised. Lived in Miami for 10 years, went to the University of Miami. I'm going to throw my U up. And I am by trade, I guess. I have a degree in communications. By trade, I'm a event planner. So I'm a corporate event planner. I have been doing that for many years. I've worked with many clients. I started my own business as an event planner over 10 years ago. And so I've been doing that. And since then, I have started and stopped, or started and failed at, or started and ran out of money on many businesses.
Welcome to solopreneurism. I told y'all she is the real deal.
Definition of solopreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You notice though, she never ever quit. She kept going.
I do keep going. And I feel like some of that is just, what my mom would say, some stubbornness. And some of that is God and also people in my life who don't allow me to quit. And I think it's important that you have people in your life that see your gifts when you don't see them, see things in you that you don't see in yourself, or maybe you're just unwilling to see in yourself. And people like that can help you keep going and help push you when I have wanted to fall apart. And I specifically, I'm looking at you, Terra, because Terra and I have had many conversations when I was just done and I'm really ready to sort of let go of many things. And she is one of the people who see and has seen things in me I did not see in myself and has helped me continue to kind of push myself. So I guess that's the basics on me. So now I have recently launched a business called Perfectaholic, because I am a recovering perfectionist. Yes, my shirt says perfect with the line crossed through it, because nobody is perfect. Nobody and nothing is perfect. So yes, I just recently started this business, and so we'll see how it goes.
Right. Well, Crystal, I want to roll back a little bit and talk about some of the businesses that you've started, like you said, start and stop. About how many ventures have you started and stopped and redone and all of that?
4 or 5. Yeah. The business that I still have, which is my event planning business, that has at times been good and at times been not so good, but thank goodness that I've kept at it, because it has allowed me to eat, and it has allowed me to fund some of my other pursuits. I started a podcast that I no longer have. I started a dating advice company that I no longer have. I started a blog that I no longer have. So I have started and stopped a couple of different businesses, and now I have my current business, so that I have started, and I hopefully will not have to stop, but I have started that. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, so it doesn't surprise me that I have started these businesses. But before I was an entrepreneur, I worked for other people. I worked in quote unquote corporate America, worked a 9-to-5 for over a decade before I started working for myself. And some may say that's a good thing or a bad thing. For me, I think it's a good thing, because it taught me how to work, and it taught me how to work for myself. Because when you work for someone else, you don't have the options of days off. You have to ask for days off, and when you're working for yourself, you have so much freedom that I don't know that if I did not have some of that sort of 9-to-5 training, if I didn't realize some of the things that I needed to know how to do as just being an adult and a professional, I'm not sure I would be in business for myself currently and still.
So when I think about your story, right? Like, even if you, as you talk about now, you're like, I tried, I started and I failed, and then I transitioned. But you know what? Like for big entrepreneurs, for the tech guys and gals, this is part of their story. There's a mythology completely around, like, I tried this and then I pivoted and I did this, and they're actually proud of it because they know the learning that comes through it. It's very hard for us to admit, like, so even within my own business, there are product lines that I stopped and I started. I had a whole conference. I've lost money on 2 conferences in the past, right? Like, there's all these things that we do, and it's very easy to be embarrassed by it. For some reason, we just decided, like, oh yeah, everyone just starts a business and then it blows up and then you sell it off to Mark Zuckerberg or something. But that's actually not even how the people that do sell to Mark Zuckerberg work. Why, like, what has enabled you to get back up, right? When there's all this stuff around us that says for some reason that we should be embarrassed by this process.
Right. Well, I want to say that I'm just because I have gotten back up does not mean I was not embarrassed. Does not mean that I did not cry. Does not mean that I didn't stop a business yesterday and I'm back up today. No, I may have stopped a business and then I cried for a month, or I, sat and was depressed and trying to figure out what to do next. It's not, I talk about it now like it's like, oh, I started and I stopped, but it's not that seamless. it feels like a death. It feels like a failure. It feels like, you know, I have put so much time and money and effort into something. And, you know, like, for example, my dating advice business, I put so much time in 5 years of my life, time, money, effort. I let go of clients that paid me to work on that business, and yet I failed at it. And that was one of the most difficult decisions that I had to make, was to let that go, because I just could not accept that I was going to fail. And it's hard to say to friends and family and others who have supported you, like, oh, how's your business? And it's like, it's not anymore, you know? So I think it's unrealistic to think that, yes, you start and you stop, and you start something and you fail something, that it will be easy to do that. It's not going to, for me, it was not easy. But still, it's like, I give myself time. Yeah. I give myself time to grieve. I give myself time to boohoo and be mad and sad and angry and whatever about it. And then I say, okay, got to keep going. You got to get up, got to move on.
In the process, because the word you use, I think, is so appropriate. It's a grieving process, because this was your baby, and at some point you're like, this isn't going to work. But during that process, because we're talking about resilience, you didn't stay stuck. How did you get unstuck? Did you, like, talk to our audience about some of the things that helped you go through the process, and then give you almost like a permission to say, but it's okay for me to start something else? Because sometimes people get stuck and stay stuck and never go back.
Yeah. So I think two things come to mind. One is, I have a fear of basic. Like, like one of my, I have it on a shirt. I'm not wearing it today, but one of my key slogans for my new business is that perfection is for basic bitches. And
she says that hesitantly, because she doesn't think that we use spicy language, but we do.
Yes. So I'll say it again. Perfection is for basic bitches.
Yes.
And I have a fear of being a basic bitch. So I don't intend to live a basic life. I don't intend to live a boring life. I don't intend to just exist. It's not part of my DNA, and I'm not okay with it. So that means that I boohoo, I cry, I mourn, I'm depressed, I'm on the couch Netflixing and chilling by myself. But eventually I'm going to get up and I'm going to do something else, because, you know, that's some basic bitch shit to just sit in it for too long. So it's like that. So that's part of it. And then the other part of it is, I sort of made this connection maybe a year or two ago. I actually wrote an article for Entrepreneur about it. And it was essentially saying, if you've been in a bad personal relationship, you can start a business. And you can start a business.
So talk to us about that.
Yeah, because starting a business is just like being in a relationship. When you start off, you're so excited. Everything's like, oh, you're in like la la land, and then shit happens. You know, like, he wasn't who you thought he was, or she wasn't who you thought he was, or people said they're going to help you, they're not going to help you, or you know, you thought he was going to do this, and then it ended up being this. It's like the disappointments, the all of the different emotions that you go through in a bad relationship are very similar to what you go through in a business. And so for me, it's like, I remember this guy that I was like so hung up on, and I just thought, oh my God, it's the end of the world. No, I got over him. And so it's the same with the business. Immediately after, you will be sad and you will be depressed and you will be, you know, just feeling defeated, but you will get over it. You know, you have to get over it. Just like you got over that person, just like you moved on, you will get over your perceived failure, and you will move on. And I'm glad I said that, perceived failure, because I think that's also important, is that when you start and stop businesses, you think, oh, I have failed. No, you haven't. You just learned a lesson. You know, you've just got more tools in your toolkit now. So for your next business, now you don't have to learn how to create a website, or you don't have to learn how to, you know, whatever, because you learned it in the last business. So the next business you start, if you choose to start a business, then there's some skills that you start at level 5 instead of starting at level 1, because you've already gone through levels 1 through 4 in your previous business. Or you take those skill sets to, if you going back into the workforce and working for someone else. So I also try to change my perspective once I grieve of like, okay, it didn't work out, but what did I get out of it? Because I got something out of it. You get something out of everything, even going back to those relationships, even bad relationships, you get something out of everything. So I think you have to like change your perspective, allow yourself to grieve, to be sad, and then don't be a basic bitch. Get up. Get up.
Crystal, when you were going through this like that, like that's exactly what she was like, I'm not gonna be a basic bitch. I'm gonna get past this. We actually talked a lot about the embarrassment factor, right? Like, like there's the disappointment in your own self, but then there's so much that people carry around being embarrassed. And the question is, what are other people going to think of me? And and being one of those other people on the other side, like watching you go through this, I was like, oh, I hope my girl feels okay. But there was nothing about like you stopping the business or starting the business that made me think any different. I think and so many people carry this like, what does the whole world think when they see that I'm no longer doing this thing that I'm not doing? Most people be like, oh, that's a shame. And then they move on with their day. Like they're much more concerned about and worried about you than this thing being an identifier of who you are or who your potential is, right?
Yeah.
You know what, Terra, a lot of times we've talked to people and they get stunted by fear. They just choke on it. And when things don't work out, the first thing they do is go the easy route and try and find a job. And Crystal, you have history of working in a corporate setting. Why didn't fear stunt you? I know you don't want to be a basic bitch, and we all know that is the truth. But I mean, the reality is sometimes it's like, what?
Well, actually, I use fear in a different way. I'm fearful of a lot of stuff. I'm fearful all the time. I am just more fearful of not trying than I am of failing.
Gotcha.
So
say that again. Put that on another t-shirt.
Yeah, I think that needs to be on a real t-shirt for real.
Yeah, I just have more of a fear of like 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. Am I gonna regret? And am I gonna regret more that I did not try than if I try and I fail? And I always in my mind will regret not trying, because I'm like this. I can always go back to working for somebody else. Like you said, I don't drop a lot of balls. I'm very good at what I do. I love working. I'm a very good worker. I'm an efficient worker. I've always had clients that are repeat clients. I've never had a hard time like finding event business. So I can always go back to it. But in the meantime, I'm going to try something. And if I fail at it, okay, well, at least I tried. But if I don't, and then some random person comes up with a very similar idea and then they do it,
you're going to be hot.
Oh, I would be big mad. I would be
hot, right.
mad that like, Crystal, so I think you can use fear in both ways. I just have this fear of like not trying. And also coronavirus has just changed everying for everybody. Yeah. So many people lost their lives. So many, so much death, so much uncertainty, so much, just everybody's life has changed. But I think one of the benefits of it is that it makes you really value, what am I doing with my life? Because I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. I don't know if my mother is still going to be here in a year or 2 or 3. So if I want to do something, then I might as well just do it, because you really don't. It really made us think about our mortality. It made us think about our lives, and it made us think about those things that we fear. Are they really worth just wasting my life doing something I really don't want to do, or letting this fear of failure affect me? I might as well. If you try and you fail, fine. But you might as well just go for it, Right. And so I think that's
preach.
Now, I always think of people that I can emulate. So Terra knows I didn't grow up with any entrepreneurs in my family. And a lot of times people who start entrepreneurial ventures or solopreneurial ventures, they've seen it somewhere. They have some kind of role model where they know, hey, this is what so-and-so did, uncle, aunt, mom, dad. I didn't have that. And so that also added into some of my timeline of just figuring this shit out because I didn't know where else to go. Crystal, did you have any role models that you were able to lean in on and use as an example?
So my grandmother and grandfather on my mother's side started a funeral home, a family business that is still in our family today. And my mother was an entrepreneur for many years, but was a single mother. But at some point, and that's also something that I consider when I make choices is as a single mother with 3 kids, at some point she decided to let go of entrepreneurship. I feel like, yes, it's in my DNA, but there's also parts in my DNA is that sometimes you got to do what you got to do to take care of your business.
Right.
You know, you got to do what you got to do to take care of your family. Do I want to just work on the business that I have right now and not do anything else? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I have bills, I have responsibilities. And so I still do other things that are consistent, that bring a consistent paycheck so that I can take care of my responsibilities in addition to working on my other businesses. And so that's a lesson I had to learn the hard way because some of my earlier businesses, I just sort of let go of some clients. And then I was constantly in a state of, how am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to eat? And I was just getting further and further into debt. And so I don't want to necessarily do that again. I'm not sure that that was the right way to go. I'm all about entrepreneurship, but I also am all about making sure that you can afford to be an entrepreneur. You need to have some money saved and you need to have something where you still do have a steady amount of income, you know, whether that's from you or maybe you have a spouse or some other family member who may be able to, you know, maybe you stay with them or, you know, I mean, when I first started my businesses, I looked at every single bill I had and was like, how can I lower this?
Oh, wow.
Can I refinance my mortgage? Can I call? I mean, I called my security company and was like, look, I want to be secure, but I need y'all to lower this bill. Like,
you know what though?
Crystal and Marilyn, these two people, the next group talk we're gonna do is how to politely cuss out service people. Because the two of y'all some phone calling, letter writing.
Oh yeah,
reducing helpers.
That I have a pen in my hand. I will write, but no, you know what though? Chris, I think what you said is really important. There's other ways to navigate your life while you're building the business. Like you said, the simplest things are not as simple because people don't think about them. And that's the one thing I love about our talks, because who do you know or who have you heard say, hey, I called the security company and was like, yeah, y'all gonna have to lower this bill or I'm gonna refinance my mortgage. Nobody tells you the details of how they were able to navigate life while building the business. So thank you for sharing that, people.
I wasn't getting my nails done. I wasn't getting my hair done. I was driving a 2000 Honda Accord when all my friends had these nice snazzy cars and I was, you know, I had my old school car and, you know, I mean, you have to be willing to make a sacrifice in some area. Whether that's
I love that.
Or whether that's, you know, time with your friends or your family or your kids, or you're going to have to be willing to accept that there is sacrifices going to have to be made in something, because it's a lot of work to work for yourself, especially if you work for someone else. When you had a marketing department and an HR department and a this and that, you are now the head of everything. You know, you have to do everything. And now social media didn't exist when I first started my first business. Really, it wasn't as prevalent. But now you have to not only have a business, but have to have a social media presence and a website and a this, you know, it's a lot. So yeah, you have to make sacrifices.
Well, I appreciate, because there was a whole kind of stretch of time, you know, the whole like leap in the universe will catch you, like this idea that, you know, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a solopreneur, like you should mortgage your house, you should put everything on the line. And you would hear all these weird stories about this person did it and they, you know,
slept in their car and all of that.
Right, they slept in their car, right? And that may be right for some people. And for like, as solo CEO, we're not about dictating what we're, the one true way, because we all know it's different for everyone and what we need. And so like, if you've ever felt this pressure, like, wait a minute, I need security as I build this. Like, Crystal's a great model for that. And then there might be some other people that like, screw it. Like, I'll go ahead and sleep in my car. That could be your way too, but it doesn't have to be one way. And Crystal, I appreciate you kind of showing and your approach may evolve over time as your.
Well, I was gonna say, I have been both.
Mhm.
When I started my event planning company, I started it because I quit a job that passed me over for a promotion that I knew I deserved. And I was no longer going to work for a company I felt like didn't value me. So I quit that job, but I thought I would get another job very quickly.
Right.
I was like, bye. And I was like, I'll have a new job in 2 weeks. And 2 months later, I was still unemployed. So I started my first business because my mom said, you're not doing anything but sitting at home watching TV. Why don't you figure out how to start your own business? You always said you wanted to start it. So I did. And that job is the business that I still have today, which is the corporate event planning. And that has sustained me somewhat financially. But when I started my dating company 5 years ago, I kind of fed into that, just take a leap of faith, just do it, just go. And so I let go of some of my consistent clients in my event planning, and I just went after it. And I was like, if I build it, they will come. And I spent all this money on a website and a this and a that. And I'm like, my website is up, and I'm like literally sitting and waiting for the money to roll in, and it did not. I was waiting and still doing stuff and trying. It was literally the epitome of trying to put whatever that phrase is, trying to put a round peg into a square hole, or the opposite, whatever it is. That's what I was doing for 5 years. At the end of 5 years, I was $70,000 in debt because I had let go of clients that were feeding me so that I could do this entrepreneurial pursuit. And I expected that I would get this immediate return, and I did not. And I was having to put stuff on credit cards. I had to go get lines of credit. I had to, it was like robbing Peter to pay Paul. I was like, okay, let me open this credit card so I can move the balance over here so I can stop getting interest. And, and I had to figure out how to get my way out of debt, and I still was not making any real money in this business. And I had to make the decision, what are you doing? I took this leap of faith, but nope, it's not working out. I gave it 5 years. That's a lot of time.
What was that moment, right? Because I think, we talk about the fear of starting things new, but there actually is a fear, like once you're in something, like, when have I tried enough? When should I keep going, or when should I finally just call it? Like, how did you, what was that moment where you're like, maybe it is time?
When I first started my previous business, I said, I'm going to give myself 3 years to make it successful.
Okay.
I gave myself 5. At 3 years, I started to give myself excuses why I needed to continue, because I put so much into it. I'm already this far in debt. At some point, I'm going to turn the corner. I'm going to meet this person and they're going to help me get this thing out. And, I just kept finding reasons to keep it going. And it was wearing on me and wearing on me and wearing on me. And then the pandemic hit. And March of 2020 hit, and the world stopped. And so I stopped. And so my business stopped. And so I was like, I'm not going to post on social. I'm just going to and I'm thinking, we're all sort of figuring what things, I'm thinking we'll be back to normal in a week or two, a month or two. No one could predict. I'd never been through anything like this. I didn't know what was going to happen. But when the world stopped and I stopped, I got quiet. And I felt like God said to me, it's time to let it go.
Okay.
You have tried. You have done everything that you could do. Look at your bank account. Let's be realistic. Like I said, when my mom was like, she needed to get a full-time job so she can make sure to take care of her children. At some point, you have to make a decision for like, do I keep at this, or do I choose something else? And so I was like, I'm just going to choose something else. I'm going to let this go. Do I feel like a failure? Yes. Am I leaving this with more debt than I started? Yes. Do I feel like people are going to be like, oh, well, look at her. Yes, it was like every negative emotion, feeling that I could have about this, I had. And then when I'm emotional, I write. So I wrote an article about feeling like I had failed and that I had failed what God had asked me to do. And I got it out. And then I posted it on social media, which for me was like really putting it out there. And the minute and the minute I sort of released it and put it out there, it was like, I exhaled. And it was like,
you know what? You wrote it. So for some of our listeners, where can they find it?
So I'll send you guys a link. It's on my Medium page.
Okay.
And I think it's titled I Quit My Own Business. But yeah, I just made the decision because I felt like God had put this assignment on me. And I felt like I had failed God's assignment, which was even more difficult for me to accept than the embarrassment of us regular people. You know, I'm like, this is God, you know, and I'm like, if God asked me to do something and I did not do it, you know, and then I feel like I had to understand that, yes, God put this on me, but did God say I had to make so much money? No. Did God say there's only one definition of success? No. I put that in my head.
Right.
God said, I want you to start this business. God didn't say that the end result had to be that you had to continue this business or that this business had to be reaching this many people or make whatever. So once I accepted that I could still be successful, just not in the original way that I thought I needed to be successful, then I could let it go. And I knew I made the right decision when I posted on social and sort of exhaled. And then it was like I was fine. It literally was like, boop, okay. It was like I had all this fear. And then the minute that I made the decision, it's like turning the light off and turning it back on. And I was fine. And that's how I knew I had made the right decision, that it was just time to let it go. And it was really the fear that was keeping me from making the decision and not the decision itself. It was the fear of what would happen after. And what happened after was I let it go. I still had days where I was sad and depressed and whatever, but I literally sat down and was an adult and said, you have $70,000 in debt and you need to get rid of this. And I figured out how to work my very good credit and, you know, move money around, got extra clients and, you know, paid off my debt during the pandemic. You know, while we were all sort of at home, I was working hard.
Now, what were you doing? Because your mainstay business is event planning. So
yeah. Well,
how in the world does an event planner manage to navigate in a pandemic?
It's virtual.
What events was going on?
Virtual.
Remember I said she was a hustler, y'all.
Yeah.
Remember how much hustler.
Yeah, a lot of my clients moved virtual. And then I got some unexpected clients. Thank God I have, you know, worked with some amazing people who recommended me to someone else, who recommended me to someone else. And if someone called and said they needed something done, I was like, yep, got it. And I just worked and I worked and I worked because I wasn't going out. I wasn't doing anything. The only place I went to was Publix, to the grocery store. You know? And I was going at like 5 o'clock in the morning because I was one of those who was really paranoid about coronavirus. So all I did was work and I mapped out a plan of how to get myself out of debt, you know?
You know what, Crystal, what I'm hearing from you that I think everybody listening should hear also, you understand yourself, you know what makes you move and what just helps you survive. Like you said, when you're in a bad spot, you write. And I think solopreneurs really do need to understand exactly what makes them tick, because it's different for everybody else. And your writing is what helped you kind of excel. Is other things where people need to figure out what is it that they need to do to figure, this is what I need to do to get myself out of this mess. You know, I used to say, and a friend of mine told me, he said, you don't do depression well. As a matter of fact, you don't do it at all. And I said, well, I get depressed, but I'm gonna give it a time limit because I don't have no time to sit, but understand that's the Maryland way of life. That's not how Terra handles stuff. No. But we all have to figure it out, and you have to be conscious of it, because when you're in those spaces, you have to bring that forward, because that's actually how you're going to move past the things that have already kind of put you in a spot where you're a little stuck? I mean, Terra, what are some of the things, y'all, she's real deep. I just give myself a time limit. She gonna have a list. Terra, give us the list.
What do I do when I'm depressed?
How do you get yourself unstuck?
Cocaine and liquor.
What was the first one?
Cocaine and liquor. No, it is not. It is not that, right? So for me,
See, she know I'm telling the truth. Give them a Terra answer.
All right. So like, unlike Marilyn and Crystal, like I'll get in my feelings, right? And I can carry it a little bit longer, and it echoes with me. And so, I write, but I'll journal. So I will meditate on kind of what matters to me, like what has me in this space. And then I'll journal a little bit, just try to explore, like to Crystal's point around self-awareness, like what is it that I need right now? Where do I need to go? And honestly, because of the kind of work that I do, because I'm a coach, I get in service, right? Like I always feel my best when I am connecting with someone and helping them through their things. So whether it's with a paid client, or if it's just with a friend, like if I can get out of myself and into my gift, like to the point Crystal said, like I know the things I'm really good at. And when I can shift into that space, it reminds me who I am a little bit. It gives me a little bit of that boost of confidence that I need. And then it almost like it clears the cobwebs, right? I think that depression and self-doubt just kind of create like almost like a cloud of cobwebs in my head. And so it clears it away so that I can do those things. But I think Crystal, you said something about like being quiet and being still. Like I think that becomes really important to me. And I know with a lot of my clients too, we almost always know the answer. We just can't hear the answer. Because so much is going on. And so that quietness allows you to finally hear the answer that really you knew the whole time.
Yeah, I had to learn the hard way. My mom would always say this to me because, I mean, y'all know me and I'm a little sassy, but my mom is even sassier than me, if that is even possible.
Is that possible?
It is. She is my mother. But she would always tell me to stop asking permission. And I had to learn to stop asking other people permission to make decisions on my own life.
That is a word, mama love. Yes.
Right. Now she has told all the audience, y'all, stop asking for permission.
Yeah.
To make decisions on your life.
On your own.
Mama love. Hello. Mama love.
Yes, Mama love.
Mama love.
Mama love. Yeah. And it is because, and I had to learn that the hard way. There was so much insecurity of who I was and what I was doing that I was always like you said, I knew what I kind of wanted to do, but I was always like, oh, well, what do you think? And oh, well, what do you, and then it jumbles, it distracts, it distorts my signal, so it's really like the only people I need to talk to is me and God. And so like, if I feel like I know what I need to do, then I don't need to ask anyone else for permission. I don't need to ask. I might tell you as an FYI, but I made a decision about me before I even brought it to your attention. I decided that this is what I was going to do. And it took a very long time for me to feel comfortable and sort of rooted in myself and my abilities to do that. So I think that's that benefit of silence, is that you really do get to know yourself. Like, who are you, and like, what do you want to do? And then the other thing is, I'll give this one to Mama Love too. She would always say 99.99% of decisions are not final. If I decide that I want to go left, then go left. And a day from now, a week from now, a year from now, if I'm like, I don't like it here, I'm going to go back the other direction, then turn around and come back. 99% of decisions are not final decisions. You can always change your mind. There's nothing and no one that says you can't undo what you said you were going to do. And even businesses, like, for example, the podcast I started it, I loved it. And then my dog that I had for 13 years passed away. And after she passed away, I just didn't have the passion for it anymore. And I thought I would pick it back up, and I just didn't. And I think sometimes that happens with businesses. You're so excited and you're so like, oh, it's going to be this and that. And then life changes, and things change and your priorities change and your interests change. And there's nothing wrong with that either, you know? So it's just like, okay, I started it. I just don't want to do it anymore.
That speaks to the flexibility of being a solopreneur, though. It really, really does, because it's not like you are moving this huge cruise liner trying to turn it around. You are it. You are your business. And in that way, you're able to make those adjustments. You know, people keep talking about pivot. Terra knows how I feel about that word. It seemed like that's all we heard for like a year, is that pivot, pivot, pivot. But really, it's just, you know, this is what we're going to be doing from now on. Though, Crystal, I think it's important too that, but our audience understands, you never lost those core clients with your event planning.
No. Mm-mm. I didn't. And the ones that I let go, I got back. Thank goodness.
But that speaks to your work. I mean, that really does speak to your work. Terra, I know you were about to say something.
Well, so I was reflecting on, as you were talking about, like, you can always change your mind. It feels like, and y'all know I'm the woo-woo one, right? It feels like everything that has gone in your life has led you to where you are right now, like Perfectaholics. Like the core of that is like, you can make a turn left and then turn right later, right? That you can change, that you can evolve, that you can like leave a client, come back to another client, right? Like you have lived the epitome of Perfectaholics. And so I wanted you to tell us a little bit about kind of like, not just what Perfectaholic is now, but what do you want it to be?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I'm a recovering perfectionist. And the reason I got to Perfectaholic was I was in a low period, not just professionally, but personally. I felt like nothing was going right. Nothing was going the way I wanted it to go. And I just could not seem to snap out of it. And a friend of mine dragged me to a psychic fair. And it's where you like go and you see a psychic for like 20 minutes. You go and you go around the table and they all were using tarot cards. So I saw 3 psychics. You know, some people don't believe in psychics. It is what it is. But they, you know, use the tarot card. And all 3 of them in different areas of the room had never met me, didn't know what the other were saying, all pulled the same exact card. So I did not deny it. And the card was the 5 of Cups. And in this card, you have a man sort of hunched over and he's looking at these 3 cups that are spilled, right? These 3 cups that are spilled over. And he's kind of like sad and crying over these cups. Behind him are 2 full cups. They're upright and they are full. And what it was saying to me was, I have been so focused on my spilled cups that I am ignoring these full cups that are right behind me. If only I would just turn around. If only I would change direction. If only I would reconsider. If only I would say there are other options. But I was refusing to do that. All I was focused on was what was not. Oh, look at this. Oh, I'm this age now. Oh, I'm, you know, past this. Oh, my bank account. Oh, that's all I could focus on. I could not see because I wouldn't turn around. I refused to. And so that was the start of me realizing that I was a perfectionist, which I have always been, and I always will be. It's part of my personality. That's part of that, like accepting who you are. So I am a perfectionist and there's nothing wrong with that. I just am no longer allowing perfection to run my life. And I'm now putting perfection in a box. Like I can be a perfectionist about this, but I cannot about most things, you know? And so I sort of leaned into just trying to break up literally with perfection. And I kind of came up with this slogan that I would tell myself when I would be spiraling into perfection. And that is, perfection is for basic bitches. And I'd be like, Crystal, perfection is for basic bitches. And I'd be like, snap out of it. We are not going to be a basic bitch over here. And I would just bring me sort of out of that. And then I just realized that I know other women just like me. You know, I know plenty of women just like me. And I just feel like there is power in being a little bit messy. There is power in not having all the answers. There is power and freedom in just accepting that how you planned it, it may not necessarily go, you know, and you can still have a good life. It may not be the life you planned. It may not be the life that you thought you would have, but you can still have a good life. You might even have a better life than the one you planned. But if you're so stuck in a certain way, which is how I was, then you'll never get the benefit of that. And so that's sort of how I got to Perfectaholic and sort of where I am now. So I'm just literally starting small, which is also a lesson that I learned in my other businesses, sort of starting small, putting myself out there. And we're really just trying to like start a movement, you know, like Mama Love, she has a hat that says, fuck perfection. And she says every time she wears it, people look at her. But it literally is like just by wearing a shirt, wearing a hat that says perfectionist for basic bitches, wearing a shirt that says recovering perfectionist, it sort of sends a message to the universe about yourself, but you never know who you might encounter who might need to hear that message. And so literally just trying to change the narrative that women in particular have to be perfect. We have to be perfect physically. Our partners have to be perfect. Our houses, our kids, everything has to be. No, we do not. We can just be us, you know? And so, and this business feels so much better for me than any of my other businesses, because like you said, Tara, it really is a culmination of all the things that I have done, experienced, learned from. It just, it's, I hate to use the word, but it's the perfect business for me. Because I just feel so comfortable in it, because this is who I am, you know?
Right.
I am a perfectionist and I always will be. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I am no longer going to let perfection run my life. And I hope that I can inspire and spread this message to other women, to just give them permission to give themselves permission to be whoever it is that they want to be, you know, not who their spouses, their parents, society says who they have to be or how they have to look or any of that. I just really want to change sort of this narrative that it's okay. We don't have to have everything picture perfect all the time. And it's so much better on this side. I was like, damn, I've been missing out.
Right. You know, we did a Google talk. Our guest, Sonia, she said, you have to give yourself grace.
Yes.
Because we notoriously beat ourselves up all the time, thinking, like you said, that you have to be perfect. And you will burn a whole bunch of calories and grow lots of gray hairs trying to get to that perfection. And it's not worth it. This has, you know what, this has been one of my favorite talks. All the lessons. I feel like we need to have Mama Love on at some point. Right? I need to give her the mic so she can come with some real deal motivation. I mean, all the things that you said are those things that Tara and I have shared with our audience in bits, pieces, and parts.
But not nearly as well. Let's be real.
Not nearly as well.
Nearly as well
this all builds up to that whole resilience factor. People, I tell you, if you're listening, thank you. Go online and look at Crystal, because she is truly perfection. She's just cute as she can be.
Really is.
But
so Crystal, where can they find you, boo?
Yeah.
Okay. And on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, we're at the letter A, and then Perfectaholic. So at a Perfectaholic on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And we're gonna convince her to dance on TikTok one day.
Right.
Yes.
But here,
still working on TikTok.
Some of the people that listen to us are corporate folks as well. You haven't given up your event planning gig.
No, I still do corporate events. I'm very, very good at it. I dot my I's and I cross my T's. And I like to say I'm the person who makes all the puzzle pieces fit together. May I say one thing before we leave?
Yes, ma'am.
100%.
Okay, so I will be 40 years old in less than 2 weeks.
Yay.
So excited about it. Really did not think that I would feel this way leading into 40. I really thought that I would be sad and depressed about it. And I'm kind of surprised that I'm not. I'm excited about it. And I will say that a good bit of my woes, my depression, my insecurity was I felt like I was being left out, that I was behind, that I was, you know, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm getting older, and I will just say to anyone that is listening that is my age or getting there or older, that it's really is never too late. And that everything that you have gone through, everything that you have experienced before is just preparing you for where you are. And so don't feel as though you can't start something new. I mean, the benefit of starting when you're older is that you have so much perspective, so much, life lessons that really, like I said, get you to start at level 5 instead of level 1. Mm-hmm. And so I'm all for us late bloomers. Because it can be hard. It can be hard to feel like you're a certain age and you're not where some of your peers are, whether that is personally or professionally. And I've known from personal experience how painful that can be. And I will just say, don't give up and keep going, and give yourself permission to be okay with the life that you have, not the life that you thought that you would have.
Love it.
Man, Mama Love may have some competition now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Right
Take
now,
that,
we
Mom.
gonna start a podcast here.
I know, Crystal, there's one question we ask every guest.
Okay.
Right? So here at Solo CEOs, we believe in my work, my way, and this is how we play, right? And so tell us a little bit, like, how do you play? Now you got 50-11 jobs. So we recognize there's not a whole lot of time for play, but when you do,
I got a little bit of time.
How do I play?
Yeah.
Yes.
At the beach, in the sand, in the water. Happy, happy woman. That is my happy place. You put me on the beach with some sand and the ocean, I'm good. I'm happy.
Nice. Crystal.
That's not a bad way.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
so
Crystal.
I guess I start off. Thank you for being a guest here. Thank you for being one of the best partners I have ever had when I do my work. Thank you for being my cheerleader. Thank you for that beautiful smile you always have and the positivity. Just thank you for being you.
Thank
you
you for
are
being
amazing.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah.
It's
and
a
so
pleasure.
It's a true pleasure. So, and thank you, our listeners. Thank you for showing up again and again. If you didn't get anything out of this, then your heart is 2 sizes too small. This has been phenomenal. If you're looking for other phenomenal content, check out the podcast. Go to our website, The Solo CEOs. You'll find our guru talks as well as past podcasts and other resources for the solopreneurs. Join our community. Follow us on the socials. And talk to us. What topics do you want to share? You have a great story. Okay, like, look, I know Crystal sets a high bar, but we'd love to hear from you and hear you share with the rest of our community. So thank y'all so much, and we will see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the Solo CEOs, please share this podcast with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest, you can follow us on LinkedIn or Instagram at The Solo CEOs, or stop by our website for videos, resources, and other great stuff. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.